Okay, big breath. Here we go. Meet Ed, my eating disorder. When I decided to start podcasting at the end of last year, I knew I would talk about this topic someday. And actually, for years, I've known I needed to raise my voice more. And this is an opportunity for me to do that. And so today I'm going to talk to you about my struggle with eating disorder. And I'm just going to give you a trigger warning right now. This episode is actually going to trigger me. Like, I don't want to hear what I have to say. I don't want to talk about it, but there's hope in there and there's knowledge in there. And it does apply to group fitness professionals, 100%. So I have a story of hope and I'm going to share it today. But trigger warning, this is not an episode you should listen to if you have lost someone to an eating disorder. It's just not an episode for little ears either. So push pause if you need to. People with eating disorders are in your midst. They're in your classrooms. They are your colleagues. You might not know that they are suffering. And you might know that they're suffering. Most likely, you don't know. I'm going to define, I call him Ed, my eating disorder. I'm going to define eating disorders for you. I'm going to tell my story like I've never told it. Um, I talk about it a little bit on stage at one of my particular sessions that relates to setting students up for success and adherence and making exercise fun. And I tie a theme in to that particular session with how I felt walking into a group fitness classroom for the first time with a full-blown eating disorder on my back. Well, not so full-blown. I was still struggling with the vestiges of it. The talons were still in me deep. So I sometimes share a little snippet of it in the context of that. So I'm also going to advise you on things you should say, things you should know, things you should not say as a fitness professional. Disclaimer here, I am not a mental health professional. I am not a registered dietitian or nutritionist, but I'm going to be talking about food. I am a certified fitness nutrition specialist through the American Council on Exercise. And more importantly, I am an eating disorder survivor. Barely, barely. And finally, if you're listening and Ed is a big part of your life, I've got some hope for you. When people cry, they shed a tear. There's this, I guess it kind of starts like your throat constricts, when it's coming and you're going to cry and you don't want to, and your throat constricts and your eyes well up with these saltwater tears. And you've got these tear ducts and these tears, they just start rolling down your face. I think about that a lot as being like the perfect example of our mind-body connection, the inexplicable, undeniable connection. The tear is a physical thing. You can see it, you can feel it, you can see it on someone else. It's a physical thing. You can feel it rolling. You can taste it with the tip of your tongue. It tastes salty. It's a physical thing. But it stemmed from an emotion, maybe sadness, maybe joy. Maybe you were laughing so hard that tears came down your face. It came from a mental state. Your body did something because of how you were feeling on the inside. Smiling is no different. We are one. Our mind, our feelings, our bodies. And when our body gets out of balance, so does our mental health. When our mental health gets out of balance, so does our body. I'm going to say that again. When our body gets out of balance, because we're not taking care of it, we're not eating right, we're not sleeping. When our body gets out of balance, so does our mental health. When we don't have the right influences in our life, we're not reading the right things, consuming the right things. When we're not taking care of our body, our mental health goes sideways. When our mental health gets out of balance, that's when I should have said we're not reading the right things. We're not hanging out with the right people. We haven't surrounded ourselves with the right influences. We're not sleeping well, all those things. Your body gets out of balance. Anorexia nervosa is probably what people think of first. Kind of like when you talk about the core, they think about abdominals first. Um, Anorexia is basically where people starve themselves. And let me just say that eating disorders, it's a disorder. And I think it can be trivialized and minimized to like, oh, someone wants attention. Oh, they're just starving themselves. Nope. You can't just willingly just starve yourself. It is a disorder. It is an out of control, obsessive compulsive disorder that can't be stopped. It's like a wrecking ball in your life that you try to hold back and get control of and and can't. It's like an addiction. Anorexia is starving yourself. It's where you don't eat. Think about that. Do you think like just a normal person can just like stop eating just because they maybe want to lose some weight? No, maybe for a day or two, maybe like a fast. I'm talking month on month, year after year, prolonged starvation, denying your body food. Bulimia is where you binge eat and then throw it all up. This I'm going to share with you is not the superficial ridding your body of calories so you can look thin. This is about someone feeling like their life is out of control, like they can't communicate, they can't express themselves, they can't say no. And all the feelings that they stuff and stuff and stuff and stuff and stuff come out in the toilet, come out in the bottom of the shower. Again, these are your colleagues, these are people in your classrooms. I promise they're around you. They don't always look a certain way. They're not even always underweight. A lot of bulimics are at a normal looking weight or even a little tiny bit overweight. Exercise bulimia is where people are slaves to exercise. It's penance. It's not enjoyable. It's not fun. It's you get on a treadmill and you don't get off until it says you've burned 1,200 calories. It's the person that's taking like 6 classes a day, or, you see them at the club working out for 4 hours at a time. Exercise bulimia. And then there's compulsive overeating. This is when we can't stop. We just can't stop. We start eating and we just can't stop. If it's a tray of brownies, we eat the entire tray. If it's a pizza, we eat the entire pizza. Compulsive overeating. And finally, and this one, I'm 100% sure also that you see, maybe even you are, orthorexia. I think it's the most insidious of them all because it's the one that is almost glorified and glamorized by fitness professionals. Speaking of being triggered, when I see certain things online, certain bodybuilding, and I'm not saying like, in fact, I have a good friend, one of our awesome warrior master trainers who's a bodybuilder, and she's very, very, very healthy and balanced and does it right. And but a lot of that industry, the bodybuilding industry, glorifies orthorexia, which is disordered eating, obsessing over counting every single thing, weighing everything, having Diet Coke and coffee for dinner. That's not healthy eating either. But our industry like is okay with that. Okay, I'm gonna go into my story. Whew, okay, I can do this. I started to gain weight. I was a knobby-kneed skinny kid, total tomboy, such a tomboy. Actually, like I looked like a boy. People would be like, "Oh, you're to my parents, like your sons." I'm like, "Wait, I'm a girl." Um, I was a knobby-kneed skinny kid, tomboy. Um, and somewhere along the line in high school, I started to gain weight rapidly. Like I got stretch marks um on like my hips and chest. Um and um this is because I was just like I'm gonna call it food ignorant. Well, I don't know. Let's circle back to like maybe there was something off with my mental health. I don't know which came first, the chicken or the egg, because remember the mental health in the body, it's the tear. It's the tear down the face. So um I was gaining weight. And this is because I was food ignorant. I was eating, I just had no idea. Like I remember thinking that like liquids couldn't make you overweight because they like go through you, you just pee them out. So I didn't know that like juice and soda could make you gain weight. I didn't grow up in a fit family or a family that was into, my family was all musicians and artists. And they weren't into like fitness or sports or anything like that. So and this is the era, the food guide pyramid effed us all up. Um, and this is like the era, everything was packaged. There was like oatmeal cream pies and Pop-Tarts and potato chips and Hot Pockets and like processed food, garbage food. It's not even food, it's just fake food. It's just chemicals in food. This is kind of that era that I was like in high school. So I was eating garbage and, I was having juices, I was drinking sodas, I was eating like cream cheese and bagel and orange juice for breakfast. I would go to school and I would eat, and this is like between breakfast and lunch, okay? I would eat like a Nutter Butter, those like flaky, yummy garbage food, chocolate, peanut butter things. You can peel them apart in layers. The school sold them out of vending machines, and I would get some. I would get a Nutter Butter thing. This is after like cream cheese bagel and orange juice. I mean, it's crazy what I was putting into my body and not knowing it. Then I would go to Taco Bell. My friends and I called it Taco Hell every day. We went to Taco Hell, and I would get whatever bean burritos and stuff like that was their garbage food. And then, yeah, so I just like ate like that, chocolate milk, and I just ate garbage food. And um, I was super athletic, very, very, very good at sports. Um, like varsity as a freshman kind of a person. Like, uh, it was my passion. I was obsessed. it kept me out of trouble, like drugs and stuff, because I was like obsessed with volleyball, basketball, soccer, volleyball, basketball, soccer. And I was a mesomorph. So you probably are familiar with these terms. Like a mesomorph gains muscle really quickly. So I was super muscular. They also gain fat really easily. And then endomorphs like gain muscle really easily. And ectomorphs are like those skinny, willowy people. A lot of times you see them doing yoga. Like they're willowy and long and ectomorph. And so anyway, I think I just like also genetically like have a tendency, like I can gain weight quickly, I can gain muscle quickly. So I started to gain weight quickly, and a couple of things happened in this kind of season of my life in high school. A few things happened that were hard, like with someone I was like in love with, and I don't need to go into the details. And then it was painful. And then something happened, like my dad, um, like we were standing in the kitchen one day and I'm like self-conscious teenager and he like squeezed my love handles and um embarrassed me about that. And it was like really that was that was really painful. And so I started to feel like I was maybe becoming overweight. I remember walking home from school one day and feeling like there was like fat on my back and where my bra would cut into it. Um, I remember feeling like both sides of my back fat touch each other, where my bra was like cutting in, and I had never felt that sensation before, so it was new. So I just was gaining weight quickly. And I also noticed I couldn't stop eating, like that I thought about food all the time. Like I would eat the breakfast and then be thinking about the Nutter Butters and eat the Nutter Butters and be thinking about going to Taco Hell and so on and so forth. And if I would always eat till I was full. And if I was full and there was food available, I would eat it. And I started to notice that I didn't ever leave food on my plate, but that other people did and could. And I couldn't. I didn't have the willpower to stop, even though I was feeling like I was becoming overweight. Um, by the way, I'm grateful for this struggle in my life because it allows me to understand the struggle that our students have when they struggle with weight gain, because it's a vicious spiral of mental health and physical health. It is like a complete, even when it's not like rising to the level of like a full-blown eating disorder, Ed, when it, even when it doesn't rise to that level of compulsive, obsessive compulsive behavior that will kill you. Even when it's like just some of that spiral, it's a spiral. It begets more of it. Like eating like crap makes you feel like crap and is depressing, which makes you want to eat like crap. And that kind of food is garbage and destroys, like, I mean, it just wreaks havoc on our, um, you know, insulin resistance, and it wreaks havoc on our whole body, but it sets us up for these cravings. And on the flip side, we can spiral upward. Like on the flip side, a normal person can get out of that with the help, maybe of a personal trainer, with a group fitness class, with you, with your help. Like a normal person can often like reverse that spiral, and it spirals the other way too. Eating good makes you feel good, makes you want to move. And when you move, you want to eat well. And then you feel good, so you want to move, and then you want to eat well. And that spirals that way too. As we know, that's our business. That's what we do. So anyway, back to my story. I um was just starting to feel like overweight and self-conscious and kind of disgusted with myself. And I actually thought there was something wrong. I was starting to think like there's something wrong with me. And I would see people that were like morbidly obese. And I was wondering, like, is that me? Am I going that way? Am I gonna be that? Is that happening? So I was afraid that that was happening. And I wanted to lose weight. So there was a superficiality to my eating disorder, but I'm here to tell you this is so much beyond a weight loss thing. But on a superficial level, at that time in my life, I did want to lose weight. I also was struggling with anxiety over everything and um, just anxious thoughts. And they were really around my crippling inability to express my feelings ever. Like I was a like people pleaser to the millionth degree. I literally could not say no. I avoided conflict at all cost. So you have to shrink who you are to avoid conflict. You have to agree to things you don't want to agree to. You have to suppress your opinion, like to and that put me in this like paralysis mode in my life. And I'm at an age where I'm supposed to be making decisions and going to college and getting a degree and becoming successful and being independent. And I was like feeling so paralyzed. And I guess a really important point is that I felt like I could not express my feelings. I would please others to my own detriment. Controlling mothers usually get pegged in the archetype of like why someone has an eating disorder. And I want to push back on that. I really think I have more of an understanding of like the heart of an eating disorder and where it stems from. Um, like I have a strong mother, boss lady, opinionated Italian, strong, like strong AF, entrepreneurial, brilliant, driven, creative, smart. Um, was she controlling? No, I don't think so. I mean, did she want me to study art education at the University of Illinois, even though I didn't want to? I did. Yes, but is that because she's controlling? No, it's because I was a painful pleaser and I couldn't tell her how I felt. And I wanted her to approve. And so, I'm just saying, I'm just using my mom because I'm pushing back on that. And I don't agree that a controlling mother is, no, she was just a strong woman. And of course had opinions about her daughter's life. Of course, like I have opinions about my daughter's life, like, of course. It was my inability to communicate. My eating disorder really doesn't have anything to do with her. It has to do with my inability to communicate, my inability to, at the time and for a long time thereafter, express myself and be okay, like really, really, really okay with people not liking me. I'll talk more about that. So I literally, like, this is unusual. And I went to the library and I started studying eating disorders because I wanted to, like, I was curious about them. And I thought maybe that could be like an anecdote to, or a remedy for my rapid weight gain. So I started reading about eating disorders, and um, my eating disorder began with bulimia. At first, it was reinforced because I lost weight because I was good at it. Like, I have a lot of kinesthetic awareness, body awareness, so I could throw up without sticking any fingers down my throat. I didn't have to stick a toothbrush down my throat. I literally I could just do it. Like, it was timing and physics and mechanics, and I knew how to make those muscles in my stomach work to throw up, like, on command. And so I was pretty good at it, and I was losing weight quickly, and I was getting a lot of attention from guys, and I liked that, and so it encouraged the behavior. So at first, I think my eating disorder was kind of superficial and kind of about losing weight and like my fear of becoming morbidly obese. And then it just kind of at this point started to snowball and take on a life of its own that had nothing anymore to do with weight loss. It took on a life of its own, and this is when it becomes and where it became life-threatening. After the bulimia had been going on and I lost weight and all that, I stopped eating. I, s- I stopped eating. I stopped eating. I stopped feeding myself, and if I did eat, I would throw up. And if I wasn't binging and purging, I just wasn't eating. And my mental health went down the gutter. It's a lot of years ago. Sorry. A lot of years ago. And I was depressed and like I wanted to die at that time in my life. I didn't want to go on like I was. And um um I knew at that point it was killing me and I didn't care. I didn't care if my car ran off a cliff. Um I didn't. And I started abusing laxatives. I started stealing from work. I worked at a bread company because, eating disorder people love to be around food. I worked at a bread company and I would steal rolls of quarters. I always wore oversized clothes. I was in Chicago, so I was always in big baggy sweaters. And I would steal quarter rolls. They were $10. A roll of quarters is $10, and I would steal a roll of quarters out of the cash register, and I would go to like different stores. I would change stores just like an alcoholic or an addict. Like I didn't want the people in the stores to recognize me. So I would go to different stores and I would buy ice cream and cereal and milk. And I would go home and I would binge and purge like for hours and get up and do it again. But every day when I would get up, I would pray to God to help me. And every day in my prayer, I would tell God that I would promise that it wasn't going to happen again, and that I wouldn't do it, that I would quit. And I I would do it again every night. I just felt powerless and helpless and lifeless. And um I was 92 pounds. I had developed this little thin like hair. You know how people have hair on their face, like thin, you know how women have like thin little tiny little hairs on their face and tiny little thin little hairs on their like stomach and arms and everything? Well, I was so underweight. I had not had my period for months. I looked like a bag of bones. I no longer looked good. I was no longer being hit on. This is well past the superficial phase one, which I want to help raise awareness to, that it's not just about weight loss. Maybe it starts as weight loss. Maybe it starts as someone wanting to lose weight because of a wrestling meet or because of the ballet company, but maybe because of whatever, because their dad squeezed their love handles. Like maybe it starts off superficial, but it can take on a life of its own where it's no longer like that and it's no longer about that and it's not attention-seeking behavior. I look like a bag of bones. I'm popping in because I didn't finish two thoughts I started to make here during this podcast. One is that little fine hair that I started to mention is called lanugo. It's the same thing a baby is born with, covering their body if they're premature. It's because they're underweight, they don't have enough fat, and so that layer of hair is to help insulate them from the cold. And someone who is severely underweight also gets a thicker, well, it's actually thin, but it's longer lanugo, like the little tiny hairs on my face and the little tiny hairs on my stomach were actually like kind of long. The hairs on the back of my arms was kind of like long. It's called lanugo. Also, I wanted to say about being amenorrheic, not having a menstrual cycle, this means that you're not a safe place to have a baby. It's your body's way of protecting a baby from being housed inside of it. And it's not healthy. And again, when I talk later in this episode about orthorexia and pitfalls and blind spots in our industry, and bodybuilding culture and stuff like that, I just want to point out that it is not healthy to be at such a weight that you're no longer menstruating as a female. Okay, back to the show. Like, it, it bothers me when people think eating disordered behavior is for attention. There's nothing further from the truth. People with eating disorders, I'm telling you, they would rather, they want to hide. They want to disappear. They want to vanish like off the face of the earth. They want to shrink back. They want to recede. They don't want to have an opinion. They're afraid of someone not liking them. They can't make decisions. They just want to hide. So I wanted help. I was powerless of my own, which I still believe. I was powerless to overcome this thing, this monster, Ed. And weirdly, I my parents got divorced at this time. That was also hard, even though I was technically an adult. It still felt hard. And weirdly, I got engaged and got married during, oh, wait, I hadn't gotten married yet. I met someone, my kid's dad, my kid's dad. And his sister saw me. She lived in Oregon and I lived in Chicago, and I don't remember. It's pretty foggy because PS, when you're starving yourself, your brain is not working. Your brain does not work. It doesn't have nutrition. Your brain doesn't work. So some of this is foggy to me, but she is the one who noticed my extreme weight loss and said something. My former sister-in-law, and she called my mom. And that led to me being kind of forced into an eating disorders clinic. I mean, hospital. So I went for 5 months to an eating disorders hospital in Highland Park, Illinois. They specialize in eating disorders, and this therapy involved like group therapy, singles therapy, like one-on-one therapy, family therapy, every kind of therapy. It also involved meeting with a nutritionist. And that was important. That's an important piece of this because that's where I was like actually learning for the first time in my life about food. Like I really was ignorant about um, nutrition, even though I was like an athlete. Um, and by the way, like basketball was my life, and I played in college, and I um, tried to walk on at the University of Illinois and redshirt that first year I was there because I went to 2 years and played in junior college first and was eating disordered and fainting and faint all the time and stuff. And at that point, I was so weak and so ridiculously weak that I literally couldn't even like catch a pass from one of these incredible women, like these beastly strong basketball players at U of I. I couldn't even like I just couldn't hang. I didn't have the strength, I didn't have the stamina. Um, so wait, why am I talking about U of I? Oh, I don't know. Oh, well, I left U of I because of my eating disorder. I left, like I left. Um, and I have horrific memories of my eating disorder there, um, in Champaign-Urbana, um, which I won't get into because you guys don't want to hear about this all day long. So anyway, I left college, to go into this eating disorders clinic. It was a day clinic. So we went all day, and there was one guy in the group, and the rest were girls. And I was the sickest, I think, of the group that was there, like the most close to dying. And we would go all day. The nutritionist, we would meet, it was therapy. We would eat, you would have to eat these squared, perfectly balanced meals, and then they locked the toilets for an hour, I believe, after class. You couldn't use the restroom. You couldn't go throw up anywhere. There was nowhere to do it. And then I would go home at night, and I was still binging and purging at night at home. But I was eating during the day. So little by little, I was gaining weight and getting back to a normal body weight because I was still eating during the day, and I was still trying and praying and asking God to deliver me. And I literally would ask that my prayer was that he would remove the obsession. Um, and and so some nights I stopped throwing up, and some nights I relapsed, and some nights I stopped, and some nights I relapsed. But it was the first time I'd ever kind of stopped at any length of time. And so then I got to a normal body weight, and I know this is just so weird in this context, but this is the truth of my life. I got married in this crazy wreck of a mental health state, and physical health. I got married. My parents had gotten divorced. I was dating this Christian boy, and anyway, I got married, and I got pregnant like immediately. Um, with my oldest. So yeah, he's 26 right now. And I got pregnant, and that was the number two thing that God used. So the first thing is the eating disorders clinic. The 5 months I spent in therapy, that was helpful. That helped. That gave me some traction. That gave me like some traction. It didn't stop Ed, but it slowed it a little bit. When I got pregnant, I was like, oh my God, I cannot do this. I can't destroy my body anymore because I will destroy this life inside of me. So I had never had this level of like, I had never had this like vehemence for like, save myself. I want to live. I have a baby. I want to live. Like I just have to overcome this thing. But the baby was an answer to prayer. I wasn't trying to get pregnant. I didn't want to be a mom. I didn't know how to be a mom. And but the baby was the baby was the second piece. The second piece. So I started relapsing even less. I was pregnant, real pregnant, super pregnant, and I was rarely relapsing. Had the baby. Had gained a little bit of weight, you know, because I was pregnant. And so he was born and I started to revert backwards. I started to throw up because it was so easy for me to do. And because I was anxious about being a new mom, and because it was easy for me to do, and because it was like an addiction that I relapsed back into. But I still just wanted to be well for my son. And that's when I found group exercise, which is the third piece. This is the final piece. A group exercise. Oh my gosh, I'm probably gonna delete this whole episode. Okay, get it together. Group fitness was the piece, the third piece. Um, I had exercised during my whole pregnancy, kind of like a lunatic on an elliptical. And then I wanted to like ease my way back into, I mean, I didn't want, I mean, the doctor said like you have to ease your way back in, 6 weeks, you can't exercise. And then at the 6 week mark, you can like exercise, ease it gently. And I had this like misconception about group exercise. This is like 1997 or something like that. I had this misconception that aerobics, it was called aerobics. It wasn't called group exercise. It was called aerobics. It was like in the high-low era, like step and high-low were like the it things, and cycling I think was pretty new at this point. And I thought that it was for wimps. Remember, I was like an athlete, like a good one. I was like an athlete, like a jock. And I just saw the like non-jock girls, like the non like serious looking athletic walking talking, like I saw those girls doing the group fitness classes. So I just assume those are like the girls that aren't really serious about exercise. They just take those classes. Um and so I was told by the doctor I could ease back in, and instead of getting on the elliptical, I decided to take a class thinking it would be easy. And it was a step class and it was horrific. This is the story, and I won't go into it right now, but this is the story that I tell at conferences because I had a horrible experience, and it's a little bit funny, and I share it at conferences sometimes related to adherence and fun with functional training. So anyway, I had a horrible first experience in this class that I thought was easy because everything about it was hard. It was physically hard. I couldn't keep up, I didn't have any rhythm at the time, and it was a train wreck, and I couldn't figure out the steps, and the instructor embarrassed me because she said I wasn't any good, basically. And so I ended up coming back and I met this other instructor, and she was like, I was 21, okay? I was 21 when I had my baby. And then she was like in her 50s, and this is a different instructor that I came back to, and I loved her, and she connected with me, and she did that whole magical community piece. Like she made, like she had built a community. She had like the culture. It was the cheers thing that we talk about in our industry. Like everyone knew everyone's name, everyone was happy. The people were cool, like it was a vibe. And that's the class I came into when I came back to give it a second chance. And so I followed her and them, that group. I was like hiding in the back in my oversized like men's clothes, hiding in the back, hiding my body, hiding myself, like still obviously a wreck. I'd relapsed into bulimia. I have a brand newborn that's 6 weeks old. I know I do not have what it takes to be a mom. I know I am not like maternally gifted is what my fear is, that I'm like the world's worst mother already. And um I started to kind of like it. And I started to like fast forward over the weeks and the months, I started to smile. And I remember distinctly and vividly feeling the muscles in my cheeks from smiling and being like, oh my gosh, like I haven't felt like those muscles they're tired because they're so underused. I haven't used them for years. And I'm smiling and I'm having fun. And oh my gosh, this doesn't even feel like slave, like being the slave to the treadmill. Like this feels fun. Like I'm enjoying this workout. And I'm not used to enjoying workouts because I was an exercise bulimic. And that's just penance. That's just hell. That's not fun. Those people are in hell. Those people are miserable. And I found myself having fun. And I was only working out 1 hour a day. I wasn't going crazy. I had a baby to be with. So um exercise was the last piece. And I stopped binging and purging. Group exercise was the last piece. I stopped. I mean, I would have a relapse every like year or two. I will not eat ice cream or cereal. I don't drink milk. I can't. I can't be around. I can't. Just every once in a while, someone's like, please try this ice cream. And I'm like, no, you don't understand. I will throw it up. It's like it's like Pavlov. I spent too many years in the basement with a roll of quarters worth of ice cream. I can't. So, okay, let me rein this all together because there's a reason I'm sharing this with you. The most growth I've ever done in my life is around this personal growth. And the true healing from my eating disorder, the true delivery from the bondage and the obsession. Remember, I would pray to God to remove the obsession, and it has been removed. It's gone. It's gone. I overcame the eating disorder, which, by the way, so many people cannot say. The personal development and growth that I have done centers around finding a voice and being able to communicate with people on a lot of levels, but really truly communicate. And I mean that goes in all facets of my relationships, from marriage to friendships to the girls I work with, the warrior girls I work with, to my staff of amazing instructors that work with me at the clubs, I say plural because over the years, to upper management. Um, I've found my voice and I don't shy away. I'm kind, I'm respectful, but I can say no. I say no real quick to things and to people. I have boundaries. And I'm really okay. I don't mean just like for a social media caption or like some platitude, but like deep down, I'm really okay with people not liking me. And I've had some practice. I've had some practice. There's more than a handful of people that don't like me. I have a big personality. I'm a strong woman. I'm a strong leader, and I don't know. I guess I've ruffled feathers, even though I really you know how much we talk about not burning any bridges and keeping your side of the street clean, and it's a small industry and you never know who you never know the connections you make, all that stuff. Like I live by all that, but like I'm really okay with people not liking me. I'm really okay. I don't internalize that. Does it feel good? No, but I'm okay with it. That work is the true work. In my experience, that is the work of freedom from eating disorder. Wouldn't you know, I used to have sore throats all the time and strep throat chronically. And I think it's all related to just my inability to communicate and express how I feel. You just shrink away to nothing when you feel like you can never say no to people and you can never disagree. Man, I like when people disagree with me. I really do. Like I don't want friends that are always agreeable. I want them to be like, "No, I don't agree with that. I don't think that." Or to give a different perspective. That's the work. That's been the work for me. So let's bring it around to you. And if I ever even release this episode of me crying forever, I want it to have impact and to be to relate to why we're here today, which is to become better as fitness professionals and to learn about new things that impact us in our industry. Our industry attracts people with eating disorders for a couple of reasons. Maybe they're still in it, and then maybe it's in that superficial phase of like weight loss. And like there's like it's great accountability to be in an industry that where like have a job where you have to work out regularly if you have an eating disorder. Like it's great. It's great. So our industry does attract people with eating disorders as instructors, your colleagues, people you work with, maybe you. We also see them in our classrooms a lot. It's not uncommon. It's not uncommon. It's a silent disease. They don't wear it on their foreheads. So, um, avoid making your classes about weight loss. Do not talk about earning food. Do not talk about burning off the Thanksgiving dinner. Just talk about what you're grateful for. Talk about how blessed we are that we can move our bodies and exercise. Like I've already mentioned, don't think that this mental and physical illness is about attention seeking. And even if at some point for someone that's a part of it, why? Why? Why do they need attention? Why? So much that they're not going to eat? So much that they can deprive themselves of food? So what's the underlying reason there? Do not assume it's just females or that it's just young people, like a college thing, or that it's just a college thing and they'll grow out of it. Know that some sport cultures, I've already kind of named a couple of them in this episode, just know that some of the cultures surrounding some of these fields normalize it, even encourage it. It's something for us to be aware of. Remember, and this is exact verbiage that I have in my courses, remember that we do not diagnose, prescribe, treat, or counsel our participants. We do not work with, monitor, or rehabilitate patients. We do not prescribe diets or recommend specific supplements. Don't try to get involved like that. Unless you're a registered dietitian or a nutritionist and they're asking for your services. Better And I'll end with this. Um, Point them to someone that you know, like me. I'll talk to anyone. I'll talk to anyone who's struggling and give them hope because there is hope. There's hope. There's recovery. February 26th to March 3rd is Eating Disorders Awareness Month. That's coming right around the time I'm going to drop, if I drop this episode. The National Eating Disorders Association has a website that I will put in the show notes. And the ANAD helpline is 888-375-7767. And I'll put that phone number, that emergency helpline, in the show notes as well. We can be the voice of hope. We can role model health. And we can become more aware. Thanks, you guys.